All right, and welcome to the Outsiders Podcast. Clint Schweitzer and Noah Groniger joining you here. Our preview edition for the Kansas City Chiefs starts right now. Gone are the ghosts of 2012. Scott Pioli era is done. Welcome, John Dorsey and Andy Reid. The organization has improved. The roster's turned over. Noah, the helmets are strapped up. Training camp's begun. Let's do it, buddy.
Yeah, we got Alex Smith out there. We got to see how he does. We're not quite sure how that's going to go.
Absolutely, and that's going to be one thing we talked to our guests about. Josh Looney, former Chiefs insider and current third outsider, going to be joining us here, as well as Bill Maas, who always is on top of things when it comes to all things Kansas City Chiefs. Both guests going to be joining us, breaking down this season, talking about expectations, talking about details of this franchise, of this roster, where we're headed, where we're going. All the questions are going to be answered right here on our preview edition, but as we look back, what a nightmarish regime it was. The Scott Pioli era ended with a thud, with a 2-14 team last year. This is a better football team on paper, Noah, moving forward, though.
Yes, it is. We've definitely beefed up the secondary with adding Sean Smith and Dunta Robinson. I still have some questions with the quarterback position. I think we did get a little bit better than Matt Castle, even though the numbers may not prove it with Alex Smith. But I'm looking for big things out of them with Chase Daniel and Tyler Bray coming in. The wide receiver and running back group I have some questions about that looks thin on paper. Other than Dwayne Bowe, Jamal Charles, what do we really have? Is John Baldwin finally going to develop and be able to get off press coverage, be able to run precise routes?
Make the roster.
Is he going to be able to do all that?
No, a very valid question. Stuff we'll definitely bring up to our guests. And, you talk about the quarterbacks, and we got to go down to training camp and check it out for ourselves. You can see an immediate upgrade. Alex Smith, not known for having the biggest arm in the NFL, certainly. He goes out there, he has good command of the offense, has a good zip on the ball. Definitely an upgrade over Matt Castle. You could see it right there. And then Chase Daniel, Tyler Bray, two guys that I think provide some depth at the position. Bray's a guy, hopefully down the road, you can look at maybe coming in and being the future of this franchise. You never know. But just a better group overall as a whole, as opposed to Brady Quinn and Matt Castle, Ricky Stanzi, that just obviously produced one of the worst pass offenses in the NFL last year.
Yeah, you mentioned Ricky Stanzi. He seems to be on his way out. Tyler Bray's got a great arm, tall quarterback. I look for big things out of him. I'm hoping he could be our quarterback of the future. But switching to the defensive side of the ball, you're looking at the outside linebackers in Holly and Houston. We know what kind of forces they are. But who do we have behind them? Is Mike Catapano really going to be able to effectively come in if Holly or Houston get injured? I mean, you look at the defensive line. We've heard good things about Austin Lane, the defensive end that's come out from Jacksonville. And we look for big things out of Allen Bailey. Can Tyson Jackson sustain his play from the end of last year? We got some big questions.
The Poe brothers at nose tackle, I think that provides some solid depth there. And of course, we acquired DeVito from the Jets over the offseason. I think that's going to be a solid addition. I think that they're going to be able to hold it down, and the linebackers are going to have to make plays in this 3-4. I'm surprised they didn't switch back to the 4-3, but the personnel is set up for the 3-4 as it's been the last several years here in Kansas City. So we're going to see how that plays out. Secondary, again, there's stars in this secondary. Brandon Flowers, Eric Berry coming back for another year, hopefully a healthy year for both of those guys. And if it is, I think you're gonna have a good team, a good unit in that regard.
Yeah, you look at Kendrick Lewis, really the only kind of weak link there. Hussein Abdullah we brought over in free agency, and Sanders Cummings fractured his collarbone, so we're waiting for him to come back from that and see what he can provide in the secondary. Going back to the linebackers a little bit, we got Nico Johnson trying to fight for that
spot. I mean, he's going to be fighting for it. I think Nico Johnson's a guy they drafted to come in here and to start immediately, and I think that's going to happen. And with Derek Johnson as the other inside backer there, I think that provides a solid unit, and I like the linebackers for sure, even though, like you said, some depth issues on the outside.
Yeah, on the outside. The inside, Nico Johnson, Akeem Jordan, and Zach Dials, all three of those guys should fight for time and be in the rotation at the middle linebacker spot next to Derek Johnson.
I think the offensive line is a group that is going to have to be better. And you draft a guy like Eric Fisher in the first round, first overall, it's going to need to be a better unit. You keep Brandon Albert around another year. You got Rodney Hudson coming back from injury, John Asamoah. And, I think this is it's going to be a better group, and this is going to be the heart of the Chiefs team. They're going to have to be able to run the ball. They're going to have to be able to pass protect, and I think these are the unit that can do it.
Yeah, I was watching Alex Smith career highlight video the other day, and one thing you notice is, man, does he have so much time with that 49ers offensive line to just stand back there and survey what's going on. With our offensive line, I want to see more from the interior. We know we've got Albert. Eric Fisher is supposed to have good things. But what can Asamoah, Hudson, and Allen do in the middle? Can they keep the pocket for Alex Smith and not get pushed back into the quarterback. He's going to need time to make his decisions.
Let's take a look at this division, the AFC West, a division that is going to be owned by the Denver Broncos as long as Peyton Manning is there, in my opinion, despite some of the injuries they've had. We're going to ask Bill Maas about that later on. But the Raiders, the Chargers, I think that second place is for the taking for the Kansas City Chiefs, and second place could mean 8-8, 9-7, fringe playoff team. Right now, what should the expectations be?
I think second place should be the expectation. We could get to an 8-8, 7-9, 9-7 record. I mean, you're looking at second place right there. If Peyton Manning stays healthy, the Denver Broncos are clearly the class of the division. I think the Chargers are going to be right there with us, fighting for that 7-9, 8-8 kind of record for second place. And unless some miracle happens and Matt Flynn or Tyler Wilson really do some great things at the quarterback position for the Oakland Raiders, they're going to be in the cellar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And we're going to go ahead and bring on our first guest, Josh Looney, former Chiefs insider, coming on the program right now. And it is our pleasure to welcome former Chiefs insider, current third unofficial outsider, Josh Looney. Feels weird to say that, Josh. Training camp has started and you're not there. That is just weird. How's it going, man?
It is weird, guys. I'm doing well. Good to hear from you again. It's the first time in 8 years I haven't had to back up out of my house and report to a college campus and move into a dorm room with cold cinder block walls. Well, I guess while I miss training camp and being around the football team, I certainly don't miss that part of it.
What were your initial thoughts when you heard Romeo and Pioli were out of there and they bring in Andy Reid, John Dorsey, and trade for Alex Smith?
Yeah, I think that anyone who followed it last year kind of saw the writing on the wall, and it was what was going to happen with Scott and Romeo at the end. Really with the amount of time it took to, whether it was a week or a few days after Romeo got the news that it took to fire Scott, that was kind of, I guess, the surprise. And I think everyone just kind of saw the writing on the wall, and so I was the same, watching it from afar. And I'll say this for Romeo, having worked with the Orlando Magic before the Chiefs and Coach Brian Hill there, and having worked with Herm Edwards and with Todd Haley as well, few men are better than Romeo Crennel, and he's a guy you really want to see succeed, and it didn't work out for him, but you certainly feel for a guy like Romeo who really is just a genuine good person.
I want to talk about quarterback Alex Smith. He comes in here, out are Matt Castle, Brady Quinn. Talk about this quarterback group as a whole. You bring in Alex Smith, a seasoned veteran. You add Chase Daniel, and it looks like also Tyler Bray, who's likely to make this team as well.
I think everybody thinks Bray's going to be the guy, and Stanzy's time might be done, but don't count out Stanzy Nation, and by that I mean all his fans, so they're probably still following him and hoping he gets a shot. The quarterback situation, obviously, last year was kind of mirrored the Chiefs season of 2-14, and they had to go through a complete overhaul, and you may have three new quarterbacks between 1, 2, and 3 when it's all said and done. In fact, I think that's probably what we're going to see with this team. Alex Smith, I know there's a lot of excitement around him. I'll be honest with you. I don't see a whole lot of difference between him and Matt Castle. I think a change of scenery is very good, and a change had to be made. But if you're looking for a guy to be a long-term quarterback, or even maybe a 5 or 6 year guy like a Trent Green, I'm not so sure Alex Smith is that guy, but he's a good Band-Aid for now, is what I would say.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Alex Smith, how he's a mature, hardworking leader, but I was going to ask you about his arm talent, and now that he's here without the great group he had in San Francisco.
Yeah, Alex, they were ready to run him out of town a few years ago in San Francisco, and then he did a kind of a 2010 Matt Castle type of year where the team is solid around him. He limited his mistakes, and when you can do that, you can be a great quarterback in the league, and that's exactly what he was, and then hopefully he can replicate that in Kansas City. I think he's a lot like Castle in the aspect of he's going to be athletic enough to run around. I do think he probably has a better command of the game than Castle and knowledge of the game, and that's from experience, but I don't know. Every time I watched him in San Fran, he seemed to be kind of a dink and dunk type guy, and Castle, that was his knock, didn't stretch the ball downfield. And I guess for Alex Smith, I just kind of want to see it. I'm not so sure that he's going to be a guy who stretches the ball downfield, especially with a guy like McCluster and how they decide to use him, and Charles catching the ball out of the backfield and those types of things. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I want to ask you about wide receiver John Baldwin. You were at training camp last year. There was all sorts of reports that great. He was a training camp warrior, and he was going to come in and make an impact. Obviously, that's not been the case, and this year there's rumors that he may not even make the roster. What did you see from John Baldwin last year in camp versus and what happened as far as him falling off in the regular season?
Well, here's what I'll say about rumors about John Baldwin not making the roster. Rumors are rumors because you don't know what the new staff is trying to do. They may be trying to motivate him to make him think he needs to take a next step and just to make this roster, or maybe it is true and he's on the bubble. I think at best case scenario he'll be the number 2 receiver opposite Dwayne Bowe. With John Baldwin, what happened last year at training camp was real. It was legit. It wasn't me reporting that he was doing well. It wasn't Adam Tyson, the star, reporting that he was an all-star. It wasn't Kevin Keats. It was everybody. It wasn't just 1 or 2 reporters that were coming to. The guy was a complete phenom in training camp. And what happened was pads came on, and with John Baldwin, he struggles to get off the line. So think of training camp and as time went on last year. Did you see him make many plays in the preseason game? Well, no, but when they went back to practice, he was making all sorts of plays. And then it kind of carried on in the season. So John Baldwin and pads has been different than John Baldwin without pads. They're 2 completely different players. And for him to take that next step, he's going to have to learn how to get off the line of scrimmage, get off the jam coverage, and be a guy who can actually make the catches when the pads are on and when the lights are shining.
I wanted to ask you about the wide receiver and running back group where it looks thin. I mean, the Chiefs bring in Donnie Avery from your new neck of the woods, Indianapolis, and they draft Niall Davis from Arkansas. But lots of young and unproven guys in those 2 groups. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about Niall Davis. I just from not having seen him personally, and I've obviously seen Avery from his time in the NFL, and the Chiefs have tried to kind of go through and find the slot receiver, whether it was a guy like Wiley last year, whether it was McCluster and the things they've done with him, or you can even go back to the early Todd Haley days and look at a Lance Long. Steve Reston's another one, and they haven't really been able to find that guy, and hopefully Donnie Avery can be that guy. There's a need in any great offense to have a player like a Donnie Avery, a Wes Welker, somebody who can be a good intermediate receiver, who can also stretch the field at times, but more than anything, take some pressure off your playmakers like Dwayne Bowe.
I wanted to ask you about Tony Moeaki. Do you think he can stay healthy for a whole season and stay with this Chiefs team?
It was pretty interesting. They cut Joe Mays, the Broncos did, who's knocked Moeaki out of that rookie season with the head injury. And I saw the day that Mays said he turned down an offer from the Chiefs, among others. So I was just thinking of Tony Moeaki when I saw that news come through. Tony, that's his big thing. Can he stay healthy? Can he take hits? He has the hands to be a very good tight end in this league. Can he stay healthy? I'd want to say yes, but honestly, I don't know if he can. He hasn't proven that he can for a long haul, and you go all the way back to college days, and when that blueprint's there on somebody, that's typically what that person is, whether it's his fault or not, or if it's his physical makeup. If you want a yes or no question, I'd say no, he's not a guy who can stay healthy.
Josh, what are the reasonable expectations for Chiefs fans coming into this year? They are coming off a 2-14 season, of course. New regime is in. Andy Reid, of course, a wonderful coach. John Dorsey has proven himself in Green Bay. What are expectations and where should they be for Chiefs fans? With Denver, aside from Denver in the AFC West, this division appears to be wide open.
Yeah, I have a little different opinion on that. I think that if they win over 6 games this year, that's a successful season for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so I'd say, what are expectations? 6 or 7 wins should be expectations. My guess, with the additions they've made with Dorsey and with Coach Reid and with the number 1 pick and with the new quarterback and with 6 Pro Bowlers returning and all of those things, I would guess that in Kansas City right now, expectations are probably a little higher than they should be. The expectation on Dorsey and Reid, I think, it's tough because of what's happened over the last 4 years in Kansas City with players like Jamal Charles and players like Brandon Flowers and Derek Johnson and Tamba Hali and Dwayne Bowe. Those guys aren't getting any younger. Essentially, And the priority for the Chiefs is to get the offensive and defensive lines right. If they can do that, they're going to have the playmakers. But the playmakers are here for the now. I mean, when you talk about guys who are nearing 30 years old and who are already 30 years old or over in Derek Johnson's case, that window closes quickly. So it's a big challenge for Dorsey and for Coach Reed. And I think when people look at it as a process to rebuild, it may be a little quicker process, and the pressure may be on a little bit quicker than most think.
What do you think of John Dorsey? I mean, he comes in here as the kind of the right-hand man to Ted Thompson in Green Bay. Chiefs fans seem to want to anoint him and say he's this great drafter of players and pick up a free agency, but that was really Ted Thompson. John just kind of gave him ideas. So what are your thoughts on John?
I don't know John personally. I haven't worked under him. I know a lot of people with the Chiefs, and the morale there is phenomenal. They love John Dorsey. They love working for him. They say he's a great person. They respect him. So I think he's got everybody going in the right direction. So I think that's a great thing for him, and that's the first thing he had to do when he comes in as a new general manager of a franchise. Exactly where he goes personnel-wise, that's to be determined, and how those draft picks roll out. So I guess the writing's on the wall with Dorsey. I don't know enough to see him in the leadership role yet to judge, but everything I've heard has been good internally.
Well, we're coming up on a year that you've been working with NCAA Division II. Can you give us a little insight on how that's going for you, and maybe a percentage that you miss being here with Kansas City Chiefs?
It's great. I'll always miss working with the Chiefs. The NCAA is, and the opportunity I have to work with the leadership throughout the division and presidents and athletic directors. It's a very different role than what I was doing with the Chiefs, but one I really enjoyed. I'm the guy wearing red on Sundays in Indianapolis every day, and trying to find Chiefs fans, and of course the culture is from the team here. So I'll always be a Chiefs fan, and I always miss working with the Chiefs. And it was a great 7 years I had there, but I'm also really enjoying what I'm doing in Indianapolis now too.
Well, that's great, Josh. We definitely miss you around here, and we can't thank you enough for coming to join us today, talking some Chiefs football. Definitely hope to catch up with you as the season progresses. Hopefully it's with the Chiefs starting off well and having a good season. And again, we just really appreciate you joining us, and let's definitely catch up down the road, man.
Yeah, pleasure's mine, guys.
Honorary third outsider. Welcome anytime.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care, John.
And great to hear from Josh Looney, former Chiefs insider. I know he misses Kansas City out there in Indianapolis. He's got to deal with a lot of Colts fans, and that's okay. That's a good up-and-coming program as well right now, but good to have him on. And his expectations are a little lower, I think, even than ours. And I want all Chiefs fans to remember that right here. Outsiders picked the Chiefs to have a better record than Josh Looney.
Yeah, Josh Looney, the former Chiefs insider, always positive, always selling the organization there. But now he's outside, honorary outsider with us. And Josh Looney's expecting maybe 6 wins. If they do anything over that, he thinks that's a good season for Andy Reid and John Dorsey in their first year after a 2-14 horrible, miserable season with Romeo Crennel and John Dorsey. He also said that he doesn't think there's a big difference in Matt Castle, Alex Smith. He seems a lot of the same play in them, and that's what we were talking about after this trade was made, how he put out the numbers. Alex Smith has played 2 more games than Matt Castle in their careers, and he has worse numbers.
Yeah, the numbers bear that out. We'll see. I think you're still looking at just a better player overall, more ability to run with the ball and tuck it and go. And I think the pistol that the Chiefs are going to throw out there a little bit is going to play into his strengths a little bit. But now it's time to bring on one of our favorites, Bill Maas, one of the best in the business, talking Chiefs football. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Bill Maas as we continue our 2013 Kansas City Chiefs preview, Bill, you've been to training camp. We're a week in now. What are some of the things you're seeing as we start this new regime here? Of course, Andy Reid, John Dorsey are in. Out are Scott Pilley, Romeo Crennel. What are the things you're seeing heading into training camp?
Stability, great foundation. That's the key thing to, I think, any successful business or organization, and they're in place. And for whatever reason, that's what we hadn't had the last 4 years. Bringing in Andy and getting him back to what he is good at doing and coaching is really a big plus, not only for the Kansas City Chiefs team, but also for Andy. Sometimes you get inundated with doing other stuff as the head of an organization, as he was in Philadelphia, that to get away from what you're really good at. And he's back to that. And he knew, I think that was part of the stipulations of him coming here was, look, I want someone else to run the business side, and, I got somebody in mind, and that's John Dorsey. And they're both football guys. They leave the business side to the business side. They're going to let Mark Donovan and his group over there run the business side of football. And it's all about X's and O's and ball players with John Dorsey and Andy Reid. And that's what it takes to get a winning product out on the field.
Going back to the Kansas City Chiefs' depth, I mean, looking at this, you got the wide receiver position, the running back position. They pretty much just have Dwayne Bowe and Jamal Charles. How thin is it, and what have you seen in camp about them improving that position?
Yeah, I don't think they're done there. This is going to be a solid football team. You're going to watch them get better. The one thing that I talked about with John Alt when I saw him last alumni game, he said, what was so fun about what we did when we played was every single year we got better. And we did. You just look at the records. And it was a fun time. And you're going to see that same thing transpire with this group of guys and with this foundation of coaching and general manager, that they're just going to continue to get better. So, yeah, it's an unfinished product. The wide receiver position, we lack depth, and I don't think right now they know exactly or have a feel for what each and every one of those guys can do. But it's going to be a lot of scheming. That's where Andy's going to find what they do well and try to put them in position to do those things.
What have you seen out of John Baldwin so far in camp? He's been known to struggle with the jam, getting off the line, running crisp routes. Has he improved at that at all?
This is going to be his third year in the league, and the number one pick. You'd like to see that big jump from year 1 to year 2, and we obviously didn't see that. The third year, you'd like to see him be like Justin Houston, where he's going to be. Justin Houston has a chance to be a premier player in this league. He's taken those steps from the first to the second year and the second to third year. John hasn't shown that development in a lot of aspects of his game. And that's unfortunate, because we need another wide receiver. And he's got a long way to go. You'll see flashes. And some of those flashes are just so exciting, you just say, wow, if he can just do it on a consistent basis. But consistency has been his problem throughout.
We're going to talk about Dwayne Bowe for a minute. A lot of people talking about, the questions surrounding the receiving core. Do we have a player to take the pressure off of Dwayne Bowe? But don't you think it's time for Dwayne Bowe to start taking pressure off of other players and step up to be that number one guy, especially with the $56 million contract?
Yeah, with all those riches should come some responsibility as well. And, that's not always the case. But, yeah, no drop passes. When the ball hits in the hands, you're expected to make those catches. But I think that in Andy's system, that it's not going to be all about Dwayne Bowe. That's what it was in the past. I think, Andy's put the smile on his face when he looks at how many different receivers caught the ball at the end of the game. He likes to be up in the double-digit figures. He doesn't like to be less than 8. He wants the ball spread around to a bunch of different receivers. So, he's always been that way. And with using everybody in the field, it makes it a lot tougher for there just to be a number one guy. And so it's not going to be all of Dwayne Bowe. You're going to see a lot of people helping out, a lot of people in the rotation. I think the tight end position is going to be involved in that, as well as the running backs.
Talking about Alex Smith, there's been a lot of talk. Evan Silva goes on 6'10", saying Alex Smith's biggest weakness is passing. Doug Peterson, our new offensive coordinator, comes out and says Alex Smith is the best quarterback in the league. I want to get your thoughts on Alex Smith.
He's a tough-minded kid. He really is. I mean, he's been through a lot. He's a number 1 overall pick. Been knocked around in San Francisco, been through the lean years, been through some bad teams. They went out and drafted some stud offensive linemen and started running the ball when Mike Singletary was there and took a little pressure off him. But you saw him evolve when he really got into a system, a quarterback-friendly system with Harbaugh. And it's unfortunate they just lost the opportunity there, but it benefits us. He's going to be a guy that has to perform well. And this isn't going to It's not going to be aired out down the field. It's going to be thrown it all over the field underneath. And I think he's capable of doing it. I like him. I think he's smart. I think he's tough-minded. He can extend the play. You're going to see some packages they have. They're a little bit different that utilizes his mobility to challenge the defense and stretch the defense. So I think I'm excited to see him.
I want to take a look at our division, the AFC West. Of course, Denver, as long as Peyton Manning, is at the helm, they're going to be picked to win this division despite some of the injuries they have, of course. But I want to talk about expectations, where Chiefs fans' expectations should be in this division, because San Diego might be a little bit on the decline with Phillip Rivers, and the Raiders are still in a state of flux as well. Where do you see the Chiefs fitting in the division?
This time of year is great because you're always looking at the positive sides of things, and I can see good things happening with this team right now. It's interesting, Denver Broncos lose Cobb in their center, they lose Cromartie, their cornerback. It's things happen. Who's to say Peyton Manning's not next, and then the whole landscape of the AFC West changes. But here's one thing about Andy Reid and his teams. Andy has been between 15 years in Philadelphia, and you really can't name a Hall of Fame player that he coached. Brian Dawkins, and then he left and went to Denver. But there's out of 15 years and all those NFC Championship games and appearances in the Super Bowl and all those winning seasons, you can't really name a marquee player that said, "Yep, they had that guy, that guy, and that guy, and they carried them." Like you could talk about the triple-headed monster down in Dallas when they were winning down there. You knew those guys, and in Philadelphia, you didn't. You didn't really know it. There's no marquee guys, and that's what Andy can do. He can put a team together. So I expect him to carry the same thing along and keep doing the same thing. And I think you're going to end up with a team that's always in contention of playoffs and winning seasons.
Going to the defensive side of the ball, we know we've added some players in the secondary, and Sean Smith, Dunta Robinson, so that looks like it should be a solid group for us. The linebacker position, it looks like we're thin at the outside linebackers behind Tamba Hali and Justin Houston. And the defensive line, I've heard good things about Austin Lane. So what have been your thoughts through training camp on the defensive side of the ball?
I think this defense could be good, real good. Like I said, I think Justin Houston could be a premier player in the NFL. I think Dontari Poe is going to make that next step from his rookie year when it's just all blur to where he's calmed down. He realizes he can do this and he can hone his skills on being more effective in everything he does, run and pass. I think you're going to see him step up. Defensive backfield, healthy if they're intact. Everybody's playing well. They can be really. It could be a premier unit. And then if everybody's good up front, you got Poe doing his stuff. You have Tamba Hali healthy and Justin Houston. At pass rush with Derek Johnson. Heck, guys. I mean, I think that wishful thinking, blue sky thinking, but if everything goes as planned, I think you could have a heck of a defensive unit.
We have a fan question from Diane Wilson, and she wanted to know if you were happy with the draft and if you saw anyone we might have missed out on that would have been a better fit.
Well, that's the one thing about the draft. You go back through the draft history and look, and there's always going to be somebody that was better than the guy you took in some later round. I mean, that's just fact. But given what we had and what we needed going into this, I think I was real happy with everything. Fisher is a heck of a young man. I mean, I think he's going to be a good, solid player for a long time. And he's got the right head on his shoulders to not worry about, hey, I'm rich and, I don't care about anything. This guy wants to work. He wants to be good. Those guys are hard to find. Everybody wants to be popular, but a lot of people don't want to work to be good, and he's a worker. Kelsey, the tight end, it's another guy. I have the same MO. That guy's just a worker.
Yeah.
He's another guy. He's going to find a way. He doesn't care what his limitations are. Doesn't care who he has to go against. If he needed to block him, if he needed to run a route, he's going to find a way to get it done. So going into it right now, there might be other people that turn out better that were drafted later, but I like the guys we got.
Well, Bill, we'll see how things play out as first preseason game, of course, next weekend. See where things go from here. We appreciate it as always, Bill. We'll definitely be in touch, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Sure, guys. Have a good night. Thanks.
You too. Take care.
Awesome stuff from Bill Maas, as always. He's excited headed into the season. And again, he looks for big things. He thinks that, kind of agrees with us, that second place, maybe fighting for that playoff spot, maybe even for the division, should be in play for this team. Andy Reid makes that much of a difference. I think maybe he's right about that.
That he does. And he also mentioned you never know what's going to happen. Injuries. I mean, you've already seen the Denver Broncos. He mentioned it. Cromartie's out, their corner.
Yep. Coppin.
Dan Coppin, their center's out. They signed Ryan Lilja to come in and compete for their starting center position. You just never know. If Peyton Manning goes down, hey, everything's thrown out. We could get first place in this AFC West.
It's all about the schedule in the NFL. It's all about who you play and how and what kind of a team they are when you play them. You could the Chiefs could play Jacksonville week 1. That's not a very good team. Get a win right off the bat, and then Jacksonville, becomes a 7-9 good team later down the road, and they knock off a couple AFC West teams. And that's just how it works. You got to be able to to manage your schedule, play the teams in front of you, and really you want to get ahead. And the Chiefs, one thing. They've started 0-2, I believe, 6 out of the last 7 seasons. So they've started at least 0-2. That can't happen. You got to get 0-2 again. The season's over once again. You can't do it.
Yeah, everyone thinks that Jaguars game is an easy win for us. I disagree.
Absolutely not.
I mean, we do not win in the state of Florida, hardly ever. 2005 against Miami Dolphins with
and the
Priest Holmes.
Hurricane.
Yep, that's when we won. I mean, against Jacksonville and Miami, Tampa Bay, we just do not win.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, I think that game should be a win for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's going to need to set the tone for the season because Dallas comes in the next week. 2 games to really start this season strong. Guys, we are very excited. Kansas City Chiefs football is back. Hopefully we have some good things to talk about as the season progresses, and it's not like last year where every show we did was just kind of a little bit of a downer because, well, we were the worst team I've ever seen. So.
Yeah, we talked to Bill Maas just recently about Jonathan Baldwin. What can we expect from him? And it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like he's progressing at all. He didn't progress from year 1 to year 2. It doesn't look like he's progressing early on in training camp. That's a big worry, a big need for this team going into next season, or if we can find some free agent that gets dropped during preseason at the wide receiver position.
Guys, we can't thank you enough for joining us here on our 2013 Kansas City Chiefs preview. As always, go like our Facebook page. We love the interaction. We love the interaction on Twitter all the time, guys. Come find us. OutsidersPodcast.weebly.com is our website where all of our interviews and podcasts are archived for your viewing pleasure.
So please go check those out if you missed any of them. And you probably did. We've done so many that you just got to go check all those out. Also, we're going to be doing an interview for Chiefs360.com about the Outsiders, about us, how we got started, and everything about this podcast. So
make sure you go check them out too, guys. Great Chiefs site, Chiefs360.com. We're going to be partnering up with them, doing some stuff. Guys, join us next time. We're going to be doing our NFL preview here in just a few days with Jeffrey Chidia from ESPN.